Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Nikki gives Victoria and Nick DNA results. Their biological father's identity revealed. Y&R Spoilers. The Newman ranch had never felt so quiet. Outside, the wind moved softly through the trees, carrying the first signs of an approaching storm across Genoa City. Inside the living room, Nikki Newman stood beside the fireplace holding a sealed envelope with both hands. She had been staring at it for nearly 10 minutes, unable to gather the courage to open it again. She already knew what was inside. She had read the results twice at the clinic and once more in the car. Each time, the same words had appeared. Each time, Nikki had hoped she had misunderstood them. But there was no mistake. The DNA results had confirmed a truth powerful enough to tear apart the Newman family. Victor entered the room and immediately noticed the envelope. "You have been avoiding me all morning," he said. Nikki quickly lowered it. "I have been thinking." "About what?" She looked at the man she had loved, fought, laughed, and returned to more times than either of them could count. Victor had built his entire life around family and legacy. Whatever his failures, he had always believed Nick and Victoria were his children in every way that mattered. Nikki's voice trembled. "I asked Nick and Victoria to come here." Victor's eyes narrowed. "Why? There is something they need to know." "What have you done?" The harshness of the question wounded her, but Nikki understood his suspicion. Victor knew her well enough to recognize fear in her face. "I found a box among some old belongings from my mother," Nikki explained. "There were letters inside." "What kind of letters?" "Letters written before Victoria was born." Victor stepped closer. "From who?" Nikki looked away. "A man I knew before you." Victor's jaw tightened. "You told me there had been no one else during that time." "I believed that was true." "You believed?" Nikki pressed the envelope against her chest. "I was young. My life was chaotic. There were things I tried to forget." Victor's expression became colder. "And now these letters suddenly appear. They suggested the dates might not be what I remembered." Victor finally looked at the envelope. "DNA results." "Yes." "For Victoria?" Nikki hesitated. "And Nicholas?" Victor stared at her. The silence between them became unbearable. "You tested both of them without telling me?" "I used samples from old medical files." "You had no right." "I needed certainty before destroying their lives." Victor turned away as if he could no longer bear to look at her. Nikki stepped toward him. "I never wanted this." Victor spun back. "What do the results say?" Before Nikki could answer, the front door opened. Victoria and Nick entered together, already concerned by their mother's urgent message. Victoria removed her coat. "Mom, what is going on?" Nick noticed Victor's expression. "Dad?" Victor said nothing. Nikki looked at her children and felt her heart break. She remembered holding Victoria as a baby and watching Victor claim her as his own. She remembered Nick running through the ranch, desperate for his father's approval. Every joy, every argument, and every family war had been built on one unquestioned truth. Now Nikki was about to take that truth away. "Please sit down," she said. Nick remained standing. "That usually means the news is bad." Victoria looked at the envelope. "Is someone sick?" "No." "Then what is it?" Nikki slowly sat across from them. "I found some letters written by someone from my past. The letters raised questions about the time before each of you was born." Nick frowned. "What kind of questions?" Nikki struggled to continue. "Questions about your paternity." Victoria stared at her. "My paternity?" Victor moved toward the bar, but he did not pour a drink. His hand remained clenched around the edge of the counter. Nick laughed once, but there was no humor in it. Greater than, you're saying Dad might not be our biological father?" Nikki's eyes filled with tears. "I ordered DNA tests." Victoria stood immediately. "You tested us behind our backs. I was trying to protect you." By stealing our medical samples? I needed to know whether the letters meant anything. Nick looked toward Victor. Did you know about this? I learned 5 minutes before you arrived. Victor answered. Victoria turned back to Nikki. And? Nikki looked down at the envelope. The results show that you and Nicholas share the same biological father. Nick's expression shifted. That's not surprising. Nikki did not answer. Victoria understood first. But the father isn't Victor. Nikki's tears fell. No! Victor closed his eyes briefly. The words seemed to pass through the room like a blade. Nick shook his head. No, that's impossible. The laboratory repeated the test, Nikki said. The result was the same. Victoria's voice became distant. Who is he? Nikki was silent. Victoria stepped closer. Who is our biological father? His name is Richard Caldwell. Neither Nick nor Victoria recognized it. Victor did. His face changed instantly. Caldwell. Nikki looked at him. You knew him? Victor walked toward her. Richard Caldwell worked with my father years ago. He was a gambler, a liar, and a thief. Nick stared between them. You knew this man? Victor's voice filled with fury. I knew of him. Nikki shook her head. That is not the whole truth. Victoria looked at Victor. What is she talking about? Victor remained silent. Nikki opened the envelope and removed a faded photograph. It showed a much younger Nikki standing beside a handsome dark-haired man outside a nightclub. She handed it to Victoria. Richard helped me during one of the darkest periods of my life. I had nowhere to live and no one I trusted. He gave me a place to stay. Nick studied the photograph. And you were involved with him? Yes. Before Dad. Before and briefly after I first met Victor. Victor's eyes flashed. You told me that relationship had ended. I thought it had. What does that mean? Victoria demanded. Nikki took a breath. Richard disappeared after being accused of stealing money from a private investor. Months later, he returned. I was confused, frightened, and uncertain about my future. I saw him twice. Victor turned away. Nick looked sick. So you didn't know who our father was? I believed Victor was your father. There was never a reason to question it until I found the letters. Victoria looked at the report. The test says Richard Caldwell is our father, but how could they confirm that without his DNA? Nikki's expression became even more troubled. They had a stored sample. Where? Genoa City Memorial. Victor faced her sharply. That man is alive. Nikki nodded slowly. Yes. Nick stood. You told us he disappeared. I believed he had died years ago, but he is alive. The clinic records show that Richard Caldwell entered a long-term care facility outside Madison 2 years ago. He has been living under another name. Victoria's eyes filled with anger. And you waited until now to tell us? I found out 3 days ago. 3 days? I needed the DNA results. Victoria dropped the report onto the table. You should have come to us first. You would have suffered through uncertainty. We are suffering now. Nick walked to the window. He stared out toward the land Victor had taught him to ride across as a child. What does this change? No one answered. Nick turned around. I'm asking all of you. Does this change who we are? Victor finally spoke. You are my son. Nick's expression cracked. Biologically, I'm not. I do not care what that paper says. Victoria looked at Victor. You care about blood more than anyone.